Hello, this is Jill at Paper Craft Blessings. So hopefully this will be the first of a little series of videos for crafty days of Christmas. So the first crafty I would like to show you is the card that I made to do swaps at a Stampin' Up demonstrator event in Reading. That was on Thursday last week. Brilliant time. We had a lovely time there. And yes, swaps are great because you make something in multiple quantities and you swap with all the other demonstrators at the event, or as many as have made swaps, and you get a whole load of ideas. So I came back with a lovely box of goodies. Anyway, this is the card that I made. So as you can see, I've made it in a couple of different colorways, and I'll show you how to make it. So I used two different stamp sets, the Delicate Pines and the Stay Warm, and also the matching Delicate Pines dies. So you can see there are quite a lot of dies, so I particularly used this one here, and then the outline dies for the snowflakes, that one and that one there. Right. So let's pop that out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to start with the snowflakes. So we've got a piece of basic white cardstock and our trusty stamping mats. I have pre-mounted the stamps. As you can see, they are photopolymer stamps, so you can see straight through them, which is great because this is a two-step stamp. So as you see in a moment, you can put a centre into this gappy bit here. So I'm going to start with, Misty Moonlight ink. It's quite a big stamp, this one, so a fair bit of tapping, and yeah, that was nicely covered. Down there, give it a good rub. Haven't done that very well, have I? Let's try that again. That fits. Yes, it will. Good. That's better. Lovely. So I also want one of the medium snowflake in Misty Moonlight. That will fit there. Lovely. And I'm going to swap over to do a pool party centre. Up. Right, now the fun bit. So there are, as you can see, 3 little dots in the centre there, and they line up with the 3 little dots on the centre of this stamp. So that goes in the gap there. Let's see if I can get it straight. Ooh, this is very hard without getting your head in the camera. Hey. So I'm going to turn that so I've got a little single dot at the top of those little 3. That should make it easier to line up, because that's the way my stamp is on the block. That's a bit off, but it's not too bad. And an extra one of those for good measure. Lovely. Close that one up for now. So, by the magic of television, here's one I made earlier. You can see I've just put these through the die cutter with using the outline die, which gives you these beautiful little shapes. So we'll need those in a minute. Good. The other thing we will need is the sentiment. So I've got a little strip of cardstock here. This is, I think, 1.6 millimeters wide. But it doesn't particularly matter what depth is, something around that mark. And this time I am using Night of Navy. Tap, tap. So nice and straight towards the end of the strip. Lovely. Right. I have also used the Night of Navy to stamp here, as you can see, the jumper and the pair of mittens from the Keep Warm. Is it Keep Warm or Stay Warm? Stay Warm. Stay Warm stamp set. Right. So with my sentiment, I'm just going to angle the end there. Discard that little bit and grab my Pool Party ink again. Just to give a little bit of detail around the edge here, I'm using my Pool Party ink. Just dip the edge, tap, tap, tap. around all 4 edges of this little tag banner. There we go. So you can just see there, if I hold it against the white, we've got a little outline. I'll leave that to dry. Oh, that's off the top. There you go, there you can see it. Lovely. So the next bit to do is to colour in our jumper. Now it's quite a nice simple shaped colour, and I'm using Stampin' Up blends. So this is Light Misty Moonlight. I know a lot of people don't really like the brush tip, but I prefer to colour with the brush tips, just a personal thing. So I'm just colouring the little diamond shapes across the jumper here. That's my starting point. The reason why I like the brush tip is that if you're really gentle with the tip, it gives you lovely accurate colouring, but you do have to be very gentle with the tip. If you struggle to be really gentle with it, you can use the other end, which is a bullet tip. Just my personal preference to use the brush tip. There we go. That's it. And then I also went over this area here. And the rib on the cuffs and along the bottom. Lovely. I'll just turn it round and look at the mittens, and I did the little cut, the rib on the wrist part of the mittens. There we go. So the next part I chose to use cloud cover. This is dark cloud cover, and I'll use the light one in a minute. Again, using the brush tip. Now in the slightly larger areas, I did like to add a bit of shading. So just put the darker cloud cover in the areas where there might be a bit of shadow. It's mostly kind of like an outline of the areas. As you can see, if you press slightly harder with that brush tip, you do get a slightly wider line of colouring. See some tiny gaps there, that's good. There we go. And this bit here. There we go. That's that bit there. Just do around the neck piece here on both sides. And the very tip on the gloves. Mittens, sorry. There we go. Now the magic bit. I love stamping blends because they blend so beautifully together and it's really easy to create that shading. So basically with the light, I'm just going all the way across. This is where the brush tip comes into its own. Cover the whole area in the lighter one, including where you just coloured in the darker blend. There we go, and you can see reasonable blend like that. You can see a little bit where the edge of the dark cloud cover is, so I'm just going to add a bit more colour there. Just blend that in a little bit more. It will look less obvious as it dries. There we go. Let's do that piece around the neck. Again, just go over the whole thing. And those two tiny bits at the top of the mittens. Great. And now to add the colourful bit. So on this particular card, I'm going with the pool party. On my other card, I used Pretty in Pink. I just like the way that they blend together with the Misty Moonlight Night of Navy. It's really pretty. Okay, so this is Dark Pool Party. Again, let's grab the light one, so we'll need that in a minute. And go around the edge of this area here. So a reasonable amount on this shoulder. And then some on this shoulder. Oh, and the mittens. A bit of shade around the thumb there. Lovely. And light ball party. Again, we're just colouring over the whole area so that that light colour blends in with the slightly darker one. Okay, and then just a little gentle scribbling just to blend over those edges. Ooh. And then on the mittens, same thing. Lovely. So that's fairly straightforward. Now there aren't any dies for the Keep Warm set, so time for a bit of fussy cutting. And I'd just like to have a little white border around the edge. So you need really sharp scissors to get you the best, neatest fussy cutting you can. Fortunately, it's a relatively simple shape. Okay, get rid of the rubbishy bit. I'm just going to rough cut that across there. So as ever with fussy cutting, I always hold the scissors still and move the cardstock to get a nice smooth line. Good. So that's 2 mittens. And now for the jumper. I think this is a really good stamp set if you're a wee bit worried about fussy cutting, because these lines are quite straightforward and simple. Now to go up this bit here, personally I prefer to cut up one side, and instead of trying to cut down there, which is a bit awkward because you tend to end up bending the sleeve, I cut across here and just around the bottom part, so you can see I've left a white bit there for now. I will cut that out in a second. Going up the side. And again, just cutting that bit off and around the bottom of the sleeve. Right. So then I'll cut up the inside of this sleeve here. This is where you want a really nice sharp pair of scissors. Oh, no, not quite there. That's it. Not it. That's it. There we go. That's the jumper done. Right, so let's pop all my pieces by there. Scissors away. Good. Okay, so let's start some assembly. So I've got a basic wire. This is a standard size card base, so it is 14.85 centimeters this way and 21, so the whole width of an A4 sheet, and I've scored it down the middle at 10.5 centimeters. Just fold in half, and then I like to reinforce that using my bone folder. So that's my card base. Where's my glue gone? There it is. My trusty green glue. And I've got a pool party layer here, and this is 14.35 centimeters by 10 centimeters. Lovely. So let's just pop that on there, getting a nice even border all the way around. Just rub off that bit of glue. Good. And then I've got a layer of pool party, and this one is 13.85 centimeters by 9.5 centimeters. Now with this one, I've like to distress it a little bit. So here is the fun bit. Got a nice big pair of scissors and just rough up the edges. Makes a bit of a mess, so it's worth doing it over. See all the bits there. Worth doing it over a grid mat like I'm using, or just a piece of paper. we go. Scissor blades. Get rid of some of the loose bits on the edges like that. These little bits get everywhere. There we go. Good. Okay, the next bit I like to do to distress the corners a little bit. So I've got my bone folder and I just curl that edge there nice and firmly. Just breaks the fibres a little bit so it bends that corner in. And you can just roll it slightly like that. And the same on the opposite corner. So this is obviously going to be the back. It's just easier, I find, to hold the cardstock in this direction and curl it away from me. Okay. Then I can curl that corner too. That's it. So the next bit is the fun bit. We're going to make some snow to make this dotty. So what I've used for this bit is the, where's it gone? There it is, there it is. So this is the Craft white pigment ink. And basically grab one of the smaller blocks and dip it. Oh, hang on. I've got a bit of pool party ink on that, so let's clean that off. Don't want pool party in my craft white. That's better. Okay. So just pick up a bit of that pigment ink there. And I've got a water brush here. So just squeeze a little bit, don't want too much, onto the block there so we've got a nice watery white. And grab my bone folder, just tap gently. As you can see, we make little random speckles. If you go quite a long way away, you get slightly larger ones, and if you're quite close, you can get some little small ones. Just be careful where you're doing it so you don't get white splodges over your whole table. That's good. Okay, I'm just going to grab a piece of kitchen roll. Just wipe that ink off. And then I'll clean the block properly in a minute. Just clean my brush as well. Good. Right, I'm just going to let that dry before I do anything else with that. Right, and we need all the bits together so we can assemble this. So this die cut I've cut in Night of Navy cardstock, so we get a little gentle contrast when it goes against the misty moonlight background. Whoops. And I want 2 of those. So the idea of this is that if you cut 3 of them, you can angle them together using those little dots to centre everything and put a third one there. And then if you put this one over the top, you can see you get such a pretty effect. Oh dear, I haven't done that very well. Yeah, gives you some idea. Or even with the smaller one. You can see how pretty that would look. It's just such a gorgeous, delicate pine stamp set. I love this one. Anyway, how are we doing here? Yeah, not quite right. Okay, I'm going to use one I prepared earlier. There we go. So this one's been dried for quite a while. Instead of sticking it straight to my card, I'm going to assemble it here first. So I'm going to put my larger snowflake kind of about there, smaller one up here. There we go. So that gives me roughly an idea of where I want my snowflakes. I'm going to take my pine bough and just bend it there, give it a little kink just here, flip it over and put a wee bit of glue on the back. Right. Because this is going to go under the snowflake, doesn't matter a bit if you put a wee bit too much, but you know, try and spread it out a bit. Don't go too far up, because if you leave these fronds loose, it looks quite pretty. Okay. Now I'm going to put this pair underneath the smaller snowflakes. So just lift it up a little bit. And then press that one on. Lovely. Put some glue on the back of my snowflake. You can see I've just left this tip without any, so that's going to hang over the edge of my Misty Moonlight layer. Like that. There we go. Same with this one. Take it and bend it just there. A wee bit of glue here. And just up the stems a little bit. So if this was going to show on the baseline there, you'd want to be a little bit more careful, because the glue will obviously spread out. I know a lot of people would use a sticky on the back when they're doing the die cutting, but I don't want the whole thing down, so I'm happy with the little bit there. There we go. So that's that bit done. And again, part of my snowflake is going to be off the edge, so handy handhold, I guess. Where did I have that? Something like that, I think. Is that the one? Oh, never mind. we go. Flip it over and you can see this hanging off bit there. I'm going to chop that off with my long scissors. That's it. Get rid of the grotty bits. There we go. So we're beginning to come together quite nicely. And I need some Stampin' Up dimensionals next. So the dimensionals come in two sizes. I'm going to use the mini ones on the back of the jumper and on the mittens. But before I do that, I want to give the jumper and the mittens a little bit of shape. So good old trusty bone folder. Again, just bending it so it curls. You want to be a bit careful on the arms, but get a nice little bend so it would go around your arm nice and 3D. That's it. And on the shoulder there. By the way, please excuse my nail varnish. I was away for the weekend and it did look reasonable once, but I'm not very good with nail varnish. It'll be coming off in a few minutes' time, so. There we go. So there's my nicely rounded jumper. And similarly with the mittens. There we go. That's one. And that's two. Flip it over and grab my dimensionals. Couple on the shoulders. Go. And one on each of our little mittens. That's it. Right there for the minute. Oh, I forgot the other snowflake. Let's stick that one on while I think about it. So that goes in the bottom corner here. Lovely jubbly. Take off all my backings. Try and make a tidy pile, but these dimensional backings get everywhere. There we go, so that's ready to stick on in a second. And my two mittens. One. and 2. Before I attach the jumper, I'm just going to attach this layer onto the card. That lined up there. That's good. Take my little jumper. Just going to pop that on top of the big snowflake down here. And my little bittens on the smaller snowflake here. Jaunty angle. You see, I told you the stamping dimensionals go everywhere. Get rid of that. Good. So next, the sentiment. You can see that's dried, so we get that contrast when you place it on the card. Flip that over. I'm going to use the bigger dimensionals on this one. So this is going to overlap the jumper, which is already on dimensionals. So that bit I'm just going to put flat, measure roughly there, put the dimensionals on that end. Could use the small ones actually, that would be absolutely fine. Don't know why I used the big ones, just did. And a little bit of glue along here. Line that up so it's parallel with the bottom edge of the card. There we go, that is almost done now. But of course we've got to have a little bit of sparkle. So where are my gems gone? There we go. So these are the 2-tone sparkle gems, which I believe are on the last chance list, so they're a real bargain at the moment. Love me bargains. Just going to use my take your pick tool. Pop that one, I'll go up the top there. One down here. And a little one just tucking in there. There we go. And that's the finished card. I hope you like it. It was inspired by a card that I saw, which I believe was created by one of the Stampin' Up artisans. But unfortunately, when I went back to look for it, to give whoever it was credit for the design, I couldn't find the one that I originally found. So I do apologise. As I say, this was inspired by somebody else's card, which I think is actually one of the lovely things about our Stampin' Up community, is that you can use somebody else's design and change it up just a little bit to make it yours. The original one had a crumb cake background, so it was a little bit more crafty looking than my version. But yeah, it was very pretty. Let's get rid of those. Hopefully those Stampin' Up dimensional backings will not go all over my floor this time. There we go. So this has been day one of Crafty Days of Christmas. I hope you like that design. I'll just show you again the other colourway. On this one, I've used a Night of Navy background and Misty Moonlight for the little pine fronds. But everything else is just the same, using Pretty in Pink ink, where I've used the Pool Party ink in this one. Cool. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed that. And happy crafty Christmas to you.